Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Ryan, aka RPin, and I'm back with another Volta-X video, and this is going to be a guide on basically how you can succeed at this game, because there is definitely a lot to figure out. I'm definitely not an expert. I've put in probably like, I don't know, anywhere between 10 to 12 hours of time into this game, so I do feel pretty familiar with it, but we're just going to take a look at a couple of different items here. So the first thing we are going to look at, and one thing you definitely want to focus on early on, is the headquarters. So I started a new game here so I could kind of show you guys what you should be focusing on. I have 4 characters unlocked so far. You basically start out with 3, so really I've only unlocked one. But you get the gist. So the point of the headquarters is to make sure that each character is happy. You see the little happiness icon at the top of the screen there. And then it's also important to keep up on resources and making sure that your characters are working on something. So you can see in the top right, you've got research. So you can invest time into research so that when you're upgrading your weapons, some of them will require a higher level of research for things. And so you definitely want to make sure and focus on those things. So right now, all I've got is the machine shop, which is just an upgrade station. And in my game that I'll show you, I put in 2 of these so I could have 4 characters working on upgrades because there's a lot to upgrade. So you can see here, it tells you how much you need, how much yield you need to be able to unlock or upgrade that specific weapon. And it tells you that there's different factors. So there's the base yield, which stays the same always. You have the quirk bonus, friendship, and happiness. So all those things are affected through the characters' relationships with each other, as well as how good they feel about whatever's going on, right? So right now I've got Sheldon and Benjamin working together. You can see here their friendship's pretty high. They've almost been maxed out there. And it'll tell you if a character has a friendship with multiple characters, it should tell you what that is under that friendship screen right there. So it is always, always, always important to make sure that you are not wasting any battles, because the only time this bar will increase is after a battle. So you always have to make sure that you're working on something before you go into battle. So, and another thing, if you watch my review video, once you've put stuff in, it's very hard to move it around. So what I'd probably recommend, and you can kind of see the characters running around. You see them, they're all sleeping right there, but they'll run back and forth. So if you have stuff spread out more, it can just be harder to find them. So just for ease of access, it's probably best to put elevators in early on, like kind of in the middle there, and I'll show you what I mean. So right now all I have is a barracks, a elevator, a mess hall, and the machine shop, and that's just your main headquarters there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in another elevator so we can go down 1 level, and I'm actually just going to put in a couple here just so I can show you guys some stuff. So on the 2nd level, I'm going to make it so that this is all going to be just this kind of stuff, right? So I'm going to put in another shop right here. But you can see there's an issue there at the top where it says resources. We are at negative for both air and water. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're constructing things like water processing units, power generators, and air processing. So we're going to put in a water right there, and each one takes up different space, right? Oh, and you can see when you're low on certain things, like this needs energy, it says we have 0 energy, so it's not going to do anything. So you got to make sure that you've got everything that you need. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a power generator there, and a air processing unit there, and that almost gets us kind of to where we need to be. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so the water kicked in, so that gives us at least enough to be able to power everything. And do I have enough? No. Oh yes, I do. So I'm gonna put in 1 more power generator there. and it tells you as well exactly what resources it will use in order to function, right? So the mess hall needs 8 water, 4 energy, 4 air. So you always just want to be constructing those things in your headquarters and making sure that you do have enough resources so that you can actually make sure everything is functioning. So now that I have another machine shop and I've got 4 characters, I'm going to put Grant over here in the machine shop, and I'm going to have him working with my main character here. Yep, and so there they go. So now that we've got this, and you can see on the right there, it says not upgrading. So you can click here and there's different things to assemble. I can assemble a medical bay, missile launcher, or rocket punch. However, there's certain things that you need, right? So you need credits, you need specific material. So if you don't have the materials or the credits to be able to, unlock something, then obviously it's not going to work. So I'm just going to touch briefly on the missions section really fast, and it's really just to show you basically what's available. So you have different incentives to use the different mechs or Voltas that you have access to, right? So you can get these different rewards for winning a certain amount of battles. So using the warrior mech, you can win 20 battles and get that reward, right? So I've won 64, I believe. Yeah, so I'm 64 on my way to 100. So once I hit 100, I can get that reward. But then you've got all these different side missions as well for all the characters. And you can see here, I still haven't unlocked at least 3 of the characters here. So now we are getting into the meat and potatoes, and we're going to be talking about battles. So there is a lot to cover here for sure. So the first part is your crew. So as you can see here, right now I've got 8 characters unlocked, 2 I am working on unlocking. In order to unlock a character, you need to find their bio and then find their specific item. And from what I found, that's just random throughout different battles, and they just kind of happen randomly. That also goes the same for Voltas. So these are all ones I haven't unlocked yet, but you can see they're kind of in the bottom right there. Once you find all 3 of the blueprints, then you can unlock the mechs. And that's all you need to do. It doesn't cost gold or anything like that. So right now I just have the warrior and the Brocken mechs, and I'm working on those. So when you start out the game, you have the choice between warrior, Brocken, Raiden, and tank. And they each all have their different pros and cons. Basically, each mech has a different ability, and that ability you can use once per battle. And there's also different layouts, right? So the warrior skin has 2 arms, 2 shoulders, and 2 body, just meaning that there's different parts that you can equip for each one of those sections, where the Brocken has 4 arms, but then only has 1 body and 1 shoulder slot that you can equip. So there's just different customizations when it comes to that. So last thing I want to touch on with the crew is, and I kind of mentioned this in my my review video, but each character you unlock has different abilities and different skill trees. So like this is the skill tree I've got for my main character here. And honestly, my biggest tip for these is really focus on getting to these 2 specific abilities. So Susan here has the ability Snack and Hammer Eye. So Snack is specific to her, and it will allow her to randomly generate health during a match. And the Hammer Eye allows her to deal extra damage when your mech is equipped with blades. So each one of these characters has different, abilities. So when you go into the customize section, that is where you can equip different items. So you've got, this is definitely the probably most beginner friendly mech is the warrior, just because it's the most simple. Like I mentioned before, it's got 2 body, 2 shoulder, 2 hands. So body, I've unlocked pretty much everything at this point, but the body you can equip either weapons or different different items, I guess. So you got the sprinklers that can put out all fires in your Volta at once. The generator will decrease the cooldown time of your weapons. A medical bot can spawn. A repair bot can spawn. You can use a teleporter so you don't even have to go through that room. So it's really nice to have those for the body sections for sure. That's at least what I found. And then I usually equip my weapons either on the shoulder or hand sections. And like I mentioned before, there are certain objects that, or certain weapons that can only target ground objects, right? So this heat saber, for example, says unable to target flying objects. You definitely want to take into account that you may run into a mech, especially later on in the game, that is flying, and you cannot hit them ever with any of these ground weapons. And so if you've only got 2 ground weapons, then it's just not going to work out. So this definitely focuses on heat. So I have 3 different heat rays, 2 in the shoulders, 1 in the hand. And then I have a heat saber, which can also light things on fire. And then I've got a cannon that I utilize by Ian, or the main character there. So I'm going to jump into some different combos, I suppose, and just show you guys kind of how this works. And for somebody that was asking or talking about in the comment section, in order to do league battles, you can click on this PvP section if you want to play another person, or you can click on AI and it'll take you into a match against an AI opponent. So you don't have to worry about that timer or the event coming soon on the right. Either of these options should get you in there. So we're going to jump into an AI battle here, and I'll just show you kind of how this loadout works. So if you watched the review video, I talked about the different ways that you can win, right? So you can either take out all 3 crew members of the other opponent. Oh, and this is the mech that has ground and flying. So what I'm going to start off with, so she's good with melee, so I'm going to throw her over there. I'm going to leave him down there because he's good with range, and then the heat does not matter. So he's got a shield and a generator and a bunch of weapons. So like what I like to do is use the heat ray on 3 different sections of the opponent, and that way it lights 3 things on fire. And so they either have to all disperse into those 3 sections to try and take out those different areas, or they can definitely run into a lot of trouble if they don't put out the fires, right? So we took out that shield, and honestly I'm just gonna throw heat onto all these different areas. And so I'm also focusing down here on my characters, making sure they don't drop to too low health. You can see that there's a small bar next to them that shows where they are in health. It's a little circle that will deplete over time. And you can see here, this is the opponent's ability, and this ability actually just transforms them into a giant mech. Okay, and so that icon means that is a drone launcher. And the drones are probably one of the more annoying items in this game, just because it puts on a lot of constant pressure and can really be a detriment if you don't knock it out. So we're just going to take that out really fast. So you can definitely see that there's a lot going on, right? So you have to think about what you want to target. You have to make sure your characters are not taking too much damage so that they don't die. This battle, this mech doesn't have anything to really specifically target my crew members, so I'm really not super worried about their health. And what I just did there was this mech's ability, which is Rage, which just decreases the cooldown time of everything, and it's kind of chaotic. So I'm really just trying to, so what's good about this loadout is it's really good for just targeting everything and taking everything out. You can see I just took out a crew member there. The heat is good for taking out crew members, so putting on a lot of this heat pressure is really good. We should win this without too much issue. The reason I like this loadout the most is because it doesn't really suffer from any mechs that you can only target air. And there's a lot of mechs you run into later on that they only are able, or they have the ability to transform into like a flying mech. So it basically makes your any of these weapons like the heat saber useless. So we won there right at the end of the game, and it's really just because we took out all 3 crew members. So I do feel like this loadout is definitely a little bit broken just because like it definitely takes some concentration, but I don't have to move my crew members around very much because Sheldon has so much health. And then the only thing I ever have to worry about as far as crew members is if the mech will target anything specific to my crew members, right? And so there's different loadouts that you can do that will target crew members. So I'll try and show you a loadout right now that kind of explains that. Okay, so this is a loadout that I'm still trying to figure out the best options for it, but this is an option on targeting the crew members. So it doesn't necessarily deal a lot of damage to the mech itself, but if you are able to take out the crew members, then you can win the game, obviously, without having to damage the mech very much. So the reason this that I found some success with it is, so I've got these concussive grenades, which will shoot grenades that deal crew damage to the target room and all rooms adjacent. So it's just good overall damage for multiple rooms. This is probably the strongest weapon to target crew members. So you can see it does 53 damage to crew, where these other ones are doing, 10 to 20 or so. So it definitely deals a ton of damage. The drawback with having this is the charge up time is very long. So the crew has a long time to react and move. But that is also where the shock punch and the electro beam come in, because both of these can electrocute the crew so that they aren't able to move, and then you can hit them with a hit from the pile bunker there. And then I have the heat ray in there also just because the heat's good for putting on pressure and dealing damage to the crew over time. So I'll jump into another battle here with this loadout just to try and show you guys kind of how this works. I've definitely found that this strategy for going after crew members is kind of risky, only because like the crew can always move, right? So if they are smart enough here later on in the game, right? These are quote unquote elite computer players that I'm fighting against, but they sorry, I'm just gonna move these guys around. I guess I'll leave him there. It's just a little bit riskier, only because if you're not able to take out anything, then it's very hard to win. Okay, so, and I also have the radar that I forgot to mention as well. So the radar will show me exactly where the crew members are. And so that's definitely important to make sure that that doesn't fall. And you can tell they're going basically only after the head here of my mech. So I'm really focusing down the tortoise here. You can see I missed. You can see that they moved. So I'm gonna try and alright. So that was okay. Yeah, but you can obviously see it is definitely trickier to... It just takes a lot more focus, I feel like, to hit these players. Okay. So Sheldon's right there. Okay, so we took out one crew member, right? Or no, it just took a lot of damage. We did not take him out. You're obviously going back and forth between those two rooms, so I'm trying to target those. Yeah, but this one might end up being a draw. We'll see. Use this rage for the last 10, 13 seconds or so. Oh boy. Yeah, so nobody took anything out there. Okay, so I just want to show you guys this loadout that is definitely more focused on dealing specific damage to the mech. So this is definitely more focused on, you can either focus down the head of the opponent, or this is also good for taking out single rooms super fast. So I'm using Benjamin, Zephy, and Susan, which are all good with melee weapons. And I throw in the medical bot because I'm using 3 melee specialists and there's not really a repair crew member on here. I want to, and there's not a crew member that has a ton of health as well, like Sheldon at least. So I have a medical bot just to help out as far as repairs to crew members' health. And I've got the drone launcher in here to put on pressure. I've got a shield, which will take some targeting. So I do like this loadout just because you can take out rooms, you know, just like that if you've got all 3 of the weapons attacking one room at the same time. So, and then I do just like having the drones because they're just kind of obnoxious for the opponent to deal with. All right. So, and you can see here compared to the other match that the rooms are a little bit different as far as when you're swapping between different mechs and things like that. So, all right. So that is targeting my shield. Oh, they have a drone launcher, so that's not great. So I'm just going to focus down the drone. Problem is that drill doesn't target any air, and so it can only target a handful of things there. Okay, I need to repair this room. And I'm going to use her because, well, oh. See, that was bad. My shield's already down. So I'm going to use this drone launcher to take out this other drone, and then it'll retarget onto another room. So I'm going to move that. We are taking a lot of damage to the head there, so I'm going to move that. And I'm going to focus down. I'm going to try and move that up there really fast. All right. So this mech, okay. So just transformed. And I use my ability as well. So that's going to deal damage to all sections of the mech and neutralize it for just a second. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to put out another drone. Okay, still need to attack that once. I'm going to keep both of those guys there because they're doing okay. Okay, I'm going to move Benjamin over there. She should be fine working on that. The reason I want him in a room is because one of his abilities is to reduce cooldown time in any of the rooms that he's in. So it's important to have him in there. All right, perfect. Yep, so yeah, we took that out. I didn't think we'd have enough damage to deal that, so I kind of wasted an attack there. That's one drawback. If you send in an attack on a room that is already broken down, it'll still attack it. So not a huge waste, but definitely a drawback. So we should be okay here. I don't think we're going to lose any crew members. The drones, you can only put out 4 drones, and he's not able to take any of those out. So that's why the drones are so good, is they just put on so much pressure. So we can take out this last section here. We can take out and then work on that. I've definitely found that so when you're early on in the game, which is probably where many of you guys are at, you can pretty much do a loadout like this that has a lot of just mech dealing damage, and you can honestly just target down the head and just take that out, and you don't really have to focus on anything else. So just going back over quickly what I love as far as loadouts and what you guys can probably try and use near the beginning is using something like this, whether it's a heat ray, or probably what is better is even something, what's probably even better is something like this, even, where it's just a lot of hard hitting attacks, because these are good just because you can definitely unlock a lot of these earlier on, and they're not as hard to master. Even the medical bot, that's a later upgrade you can get, but you can replace it either with like a medical bay. A generator is always good. You unlock that pretty fast. So there's definitely some things there that you can substitute. And even having the crew members, each crew member has specialties, but even if, you use Benjamin on a air targeting attack, it'll still deal increased damage, so it's still good there. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Definitely let me know if you want to see more videos like this on this game. I'd be happy to do that. It's definitely a fun game. I've really been enjoying it a lot. One drawback that I didn't mention in my review video is that you do need an internet connection. I didn't even realize that. You do need an internet connection even just to play the game at all. So if that's something you're worried about, definitely be aware of that. But that was one kind of drawback. But honestly, other than that, this game's super fun. I really don't experience any issues ever. The gameplay is always, it runs super smooth. It definitely runs the way it's supposed to. So yeah, definitely let me know if this helps you guys out. If you want to see more, definitely let me know down below in the comment section. Subscribe if you guys are new here to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.